Hey there. I'm going to talk about some HeroScape stuff. The last stuff I was doing was preparing for a tournament at the end of December. It turns out I did not go because I had gotten a job to relocate and was planning to do that. Um, Ended up not staying for very long and not actually relocating, but then I actually missed the second event in January that was very early, and I had planned my own event for earlier mid January and had to cancel that too. So I'm actually out 3 of those tournaments. And now my local place in Jacksonville, which is not really local to me, is not hosting anything right now. And the other place that I went one time and was going to do a tournament recap for was in Lakeland, which also isn't super close to me, but it was slightly closer. And they didn't do anything for a few months, and now they've, I guess, had a couple or have some coming up, but I will not be attending for a variety of reasons. So now I am trying to get something worked up here. There's a new store here, and I maybe will try to host my own event again. But I did want to talk about that army building video that I made. I had 5 armies that were kind of weird that I was just messing with, and I decided to make a whole tournament to do to try to pick, and just for fun, just to see which of the 5 theoretically would be the best one. I've got kind of a picture of the bracket, but first what I did is I had the 5 teams, and I had a random number generator pick. I gave them numbers, and had them face off. So I had the first matchup on the top left of the picture, and then I marked it with a little 1 for who lost. So everybody got 2 losses. Once you got your second loss, you were out. So the first 2 matchups on the top left, and then the 5th team that wasn't chosen by the generator went to the kind of like the losers bracket, sort of. And then that team played the 2 losers of the top section. And then I had the 2 teams that won on the top move on, and they kind of got a bye. I didn't quite catch this when I was making the tournament, but the teams in the loser bracket, the one team that had lost and played in the loser bracket was just out, and then it ended up being 2 teams in the losing bracket that were both 1-1, and then the other side of it, the first teams were 1-0. And I had the 1-0 teams play the 1-1 teams, and I probably should have made those 2 teams play each other first as like a second round, and then do a final. But anyway, I didn't, and so those teams both played the teams that were 1-0, and both of the teams that were 1-0 beat the teams that had already lost one. And then they matched up, and Awashia's team with the Krakenlings and the Gelry went undefeated and won the championship. I did have Scenario 1 map from Rise of the Valkyrie for the first round, which was the first 2 matchups and then the loser bracket. And then once I moved on, I did the Scenario 2. Both of them had a decent amount of water. The first one I would say wasn't super beneficial to Awashia, and it was quite close, but it certainly favored Xenothrax and the Dragons because it had high areas and a lot of height and mountain to get on. And she was able to pull off the victory, and I realized I actually had an extra squad of the little dragons that I'm forgetting the name of at the moment, and she still lost. So Awashia definitely won, but the second map had water all throughout the middle, and was great to rush, even with just 2 squads. Getting them out, 4 of them out at a time, out onto the water, and then also being able to move up everybody at the start of the round, which is annoying, but it is so useful. And getting a lot of those characters in the back kind of up in good positions and getting them out on the field without having to use order markers is really beneficial, as long as you can protect them and make sure they don't get assassinated per se. And I did experience that kind of in the last match, and it was still able to overcome it, even though Awashia got assassinated and one of the Krakenlings was as well. The last 2 Krakenlings were able to finish off the rest of everything by themselves. It's it was a better team than I expected. I didn't think that they would win that many, but that goes to show the Gelry are just really good, just because there's a lot of them in the squad, and they defend quite well. You're often going to have 4 defense, and 2 defense isn't really going to get you anywhere, but there's not a lot of teams that are going to be able to kill all 4 of the Gelry in a squad. And again, even if you do, the next wave is going to be right on top of you because of being able to move all of the figures in a round, which was quite interesting. So yeah, they won. The second team was the Iron Lich with the Hellforge and the Wraith Riders and the Crabs and the reroll Acolytes. That's what they're called. And they again, they did well. They almost pulled off the victory in the last game, but didn't quite get there. Just whiffed on some attacks at the end and didn't finish it, and did rather well. But so that team did relatively good, and the other teams that made it out of the losers bracket was the other Crab team with Major Q11, which went pretty well. Again, it's a team that I've had fun messing around with, but it's probably not very competitive. And Xenothrax and the Little Dragons that I still can't remember the name of at the moment. I was trying to make Xenothrax work, and it is so frustrating putting her on the board still. There's quite a few problems with the new stuff where they don't fit. The Gelry even are, I feel like part of why it's so annoying to move them so much is because they don't fit anywhere. They don't, you have to really arrange them so that they actually fit on their hexes, and they're just too big. A lot of the sizing for the new figures just is not helpful. It's not the end of the world, and I'm glad they exist, but it's not ideal. So anyways, that's who would have been picked, I guess, to go, or I would have come up with something else. There's been a couple new ideas I've had since then, but I currently have no tournaments coming up to army build for, or to go and do a recap for. So I'm going to go back to my rankings of things. I know that somebody wanted me to rank the 2025 HeroScape releases, so that's probably coming up next. And we also recorded some blind rankings for things, me and Katie. We just haven't edited them. And we were doing some stop motions for the first scenario in Rise of the Valkyrie, and that ended up getting scrapped. We thought about redoing it, and it was quite an epic match. It was like my favorite thing that I think we did last year. But I think we're just going to move on to Scenario 2, because we didn't want to replay it. But that's what's coming up. Thanks for watching. Bye.